for a large amount of the 2022 season, Kevin Harvick has pretty much been an afterthought for many. Someone who for much of the year was on the playoff cut line, recently was below the playoff cut line, and now with the victory has entered the playoffs officially. And you know what? I want to ask a question I think a few people probably have asked already, and pro and anti-reasoning on both sides of this issue. Has Kevin Harvick entered the 2022 championship discussion? I think that this is actually something that might need to be looked into a little bit, because Harvick has had a quietly consistent season. He's not exactly been as good as in years past, but really, other than Chase Elliott, nobody has. So let's look into a couple reasons why and why not, and just sort of analyze those and come to a verdict. Starting off, he finally got a win. Harvick has been criticized all season, and the biggest criticism of all comes from the fact that he has not gotten a win, and he didn't get a win last year either. It looked like, in a lot of people's eyes, that Kevin Harvick was cooked. Yet, he comes out at Michigan, albeit one of his best tracks, and he looks like vintage Kevin Harvick. He's competitive for most of the day, he's up front, and when the opportunity rises, he pounces, takes advantage, runs away with the victory. So now he's evened out the playing field. Of the 16 who are currently in the playoffs, 15 are winners, with at least one or more. And he's one of them now, which makes him even with a ton of different guys that were ahead of him simply off that fact alone. And it's been part of an upward trend in speed over the summer stretch, showing that he might be peaking at the right time. Now, I mentioned that the playoff field was close, and I really think it is very close. Of the 15 winners in the playoffs at the moment, 9 of them only have one victory, including Harvick. Again, meaning being on an equal playing field with guys who aren't as good as you will really help Harvick in the long term, seeing how in the round of 16 and 12, a lot of them will start at the same spot, but Harvick will be faster more than likely and also has more experience in these situations. Playoff points have been relatively spread out amongst the playoff drivers, so having any opportunity to get more is always going to be a necessity, but especially this year. And, well, Harvick just got 5 more with his victory. And see, a host of the playoff tracks like Bristol, Texas, Las Vegas, Homestead, they're all good for Harvick, which means he's going to have an edge over other playoff drivers who don't have as much experience or just aren't as good at these tracks. So that's another real big factor in Harvick's corner. And like I said, he has more experience in the field, basically. He is the most experienced and longest tenured driver in NASCAR who has still been performing at a high caliber championship level year in and year out. He's won in high pressure situations, do or die moments. His nickname is the closer, for Christ's sake. So it's definitely something he can easily do. And I say easily in a matter-of-fact way that he's done it before, but he's shown that when push comes to shove, when his back's against the wall, he can find a way around it. Look at 2014. He was out going into Phoenix, won that race, and then went and won Homestead the very next week. And he won a high-pressure way to qualify for the playoffs at Michigan in a very clutch way, because he was basically left for dead out there before Michigan. He was a driver that many thought was done. He didn't have a win. He was too far back in points. And listen, even the broadcast was saying he wasn't fast enough to get a victory. Yet, he goes out, performs, gets better as the day goes on, and that number 4 team peaks right at the end when it matters. He might be able to replicate this race in a championship fight in the next 10 weeks once the playoffs start. Now, looking back at some of the playoff tracks that already have been run at, there's 4 that haven't: Bristol, Texas, the Roval, and Homestead. While Bristol had dirt and Texas was an all-star race, we're not going to count those. There are 6 tracks that have been run that are in the playoffs that we've already seen this year. And Harvick hasn't been great, but he hasn't been awful either. At Las Vegas, he finished a kind of mediocre 12th. At Phoenix, his probably best track, he finished 6th, back when SHR wasn't as fast as they are now, and let's be real, they're not as fast as they are now. Harvick is carrying this team. At Martinsville, he finished 14th. Talladega 10th, though, again, Talladega being a super speedway, that 10th could have been a 20th or a win, for all we know. At Darlington, he finished 4th, a good showing of strong speed as a top 5 run. And then at Kansas, he finished 15th. So, it's not like he's going to be setting the world on fire at all these tracks, but he easily can make it past the round of 16. And as long as he's not taking out Talladega, he's probably making it past the round of 12. In the round of 8, well, you got Las Vegas, which while he didn't run great at this year, he usually runs well at. You have Homestead that he usually runs well at. And you have Martinsville that, well, he's okay at. That's going to be the one if he won there. But he'd be a championship contender if he made the round of 8, which is really possible looking at all these tracks. Now, we've looked at those 6 races, but let's look at the 23 that have made up the season so far. In 23 starts, he has a win. He has 6 top 5s, 12 top 10s, 4 DNFs, 51 laps led, and an average finish of 13.6. The one win is tied for 7th with 8 drivers currently in the playoffs, and only above Ryan Blaney at the moment, who has none. Of the top 5s, he's gotten top 5s in 26% of the races this year, and that's tied for 6th with 3 drivers. Those 3 drivers are Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch. 3 drivers that, while not being championship favorites, are very good. Bell has been praised for his consistency this year. Logano has been pretty quick as he usually is. And Kyle Busch did all of that early in the year when he was really fast. So I would say that of those guys, maybe Bell is the only one so far that could be said to clearly have outrun Harvick. Of the top 10s, well, he got those in 52% of races, just over half, which was actually pretty difficult this year as he's tied for 3rd with only 2 drivers. Christopher Bell again, who, like I said, was very, very consistent, and Kyle Larson, someone who isn't running as well as last year, similar to the way Harvick has been the last couple of years, but similar to Harvick as well, has been incredibly solid this year and someone who's getting overlooked. Not bad company to be in. And then you got the laps led in 51. This is Harvick's weak spot. Of the 16 currently in the playoffs, he ranks 15th by a wide margin with this. The only one worse is Alex Bowman, who hasn't even led 20 laps this season. If Harvick is going to compete for a championship, he has to lead more laps. It's not about whether or not he just leads a couple in maybe 1 or 2 of the races. He has to lead laps, in my opinion, in at least 6 or 7 of the races to be up front enough to compete for wins, stage points, playoff points, all of it. There's no way that he can make it past the round of 8 if he only leads 51 laps in a season. And then the average finish of 13.6, which ranks 5th of the 16 currently qualified in the playoffs. So what's the verdict? Due to the close field and the experience that Harvick has, I say he can be in the championship contender discussion, but he's not the safest bet. But with that, I want to pass it on to you. Do you think that Kevin Harvick is in the championship discussion? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video. Share this video and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. And all my channel members, thank you so much for your great support. And until next time, have a good one.